So the mastermind behind the fraud scheme with Feeding My Future has just been sentenced to prison, and I'm going to get into that clip here in just a second. But the very interesting tidbit is an interview she did from prison, in which she basically said that other people knew about it and chose to do nothing. As a matter of fact, someone in DC actually actively helped to keep the scheme going. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the bombshell that we're going to get into in here in just a second. But before we get into that, let's hop into the sentencing of Amy Bock. Check it out.
Breaking news, a Minnesota judge has just sentenced the mastermind behind the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme, Amy Bock. She just got more than 41 years in prison. The prosecution is asking for a 50-year sentence and her defense about 3 years. So that's somewhere in the middle that they got that, but closer to what obviously the prosecution wanted. The scheme involved theft of nearly $250 million in COVID funding. That money was meant to feed hungry children. State leaders claim they were unaware of the fraud. Here's what Amy Bock told our Alexis McAdams from jail back in January.
I honestly believe Keith Ellison and Governor Walz need to be held accountable. There needs to be an investigation done. If they weren't aware, that's concerning.
Quite interesting. 41 years, and I believe she isn't eligible for parole until 35 years. I don't know exactly how old she is. How old is Amy Bock? Amy Bock age. Let's see here. 45. Whoa. That is that's a herder. That is a herder. She ain't gonna be she's going to be 80 years old. 80 before she's even eligible for parole. Eligible. Like that doesn't mean she's gonna get it, right? Until she's even eligible, she's gonna be 80. And she probably ain't gonna get it the first few times she tries, so she's gonna be well into her 80s before she is released from prison, which, hey, rightfully so. You scam the system, knowingly scam the system, and we, the American people, are sick of it. And I want to play this clip from JD Vance because he also recently said something that was quite interesting. Check it out.
Okay. I figured out finally how the seating chart works.
I want to ask you about the anti-fraud task force. You previously mentioned that Ilhan Omar seemed to have committed immigration fraud. Do you anticipate an indictment against her, an indictment related to that situation?
Yeah, so Reagan, I don't want to prejudge an investigation. I mean, you read the things about Ilhan Omar and about, who she married and whether she didn't marry this person or that person. It certainly seems like something fishy is there, but everybody's entitled to equal justice under the laws. So we're going to investigate it. We're going to take a look at it. If we think that there's a crime, we're going to prosecute that crime. And that's something the Department of Justice is looking at right now. Okay.
You don't want to jump the gun. So what do you know, JD, that we don't know? Sounds like you know something. Now, let's get into the interview that I spoke about earlier with Amy Bock, and where she basically says everybody else knew about the entire situation. They're not innocent. They were in on it too.
Alert also in Minnesota, the convicted ringleader of one of the state's biggest fraud schemes is speaking to Fox News from behind bars. Now, she believes that the scam was no surprise to local Democratic leaders, and she's naming names. She spoke to Alexis McAdams. Hi, Alexis.
Hey, Dana. Yeah, so everywhere you look in the state of Minnesota, right, there seems to be another fraud scam. So this one involves Amy Bock. She's a Minnesota woman convicted of fraud for taking taxpayer money that was meant to feed hungry kids. But listen to this. Bock tells me the real issue here is the state of Minnesota, which she says kept giving scammers your taxpayer money even after they were flagged as fraudsters.
I have to believe that the governor's office and Keith Ellison's office were aware of this. They've said they were involved in helping the FBI. They've said they were made aware, but apparently I'm scary, so they couldn't do anything.
So Bock ran this nonprofit called Feeding Our Future. You might have heard of it. It was one of dozens convicted in this $250 million scam. You can see her mugshot there. Prosecutors say this group set up sham restaurants. They pretended they were making these meals. They got paid by the state for those meals, but they just pocketed the cash. Bock, who's looking at 30 years behind bars, tells me the state signed off on those businesses, not her.
It all went through a process. They were all approved. They were all paid by the state, yet all the fingers are being pointed at me.
And it's not just Bock. Whistleblowers told a congressional committee Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison there ignored warnings for years as millions of dollars and millions were stolen on their watch. Congress is investigating a long list of massive fraud schemes in the state. It's hard to keep up. Prosecutors say it's led to at least $9 billion in fraud, Dana, and counting. Congress also asking why the Attorney General there would meet with a group of Somali fraudsters, which were under FBI investigation in 2021. The group can be heard in an audio clip given to us by Bock's lawyer offering to donate to his campaign if he can help them get their funding flowing again. Ellison denies any wrongdoing here. He slammed Bock in a statement to Fox, calling her a liar, a manipulator, adding now she's on a media tour to deflect her guilt onto others instead of finally taking responsibility for this fraud scheme that she ran. So we reached out to Governor Walz too, Dana. He didn't get back to us. House Republicans say it's just getting started. They want to subpoena Walz and Ellison because they say they're responsible for ripping off American taxpayers.
Yeah. Bombshell information. She went down and she's taking down everybody else with her. And to hear the news or the information of, hey, if you can get our money flowing again, we'll donate to your campaign. Like, to have that information, to have that, I don't know how you get out of the situation. Not with that over your head. You can't say that you didn't know, at least. You might be able to claim that you didn't participate, but you can't say you didn't know. Right? So, yeah, I think this really is just the beginning. I think Ilhan Omar is next up on the chopping block. And here's Tom Emmer. Check it out.
Last 8 years in Minnesota, and his has run rampant. Ilhan Omar is at the center of the Feeding Our Future scandal. She not only was the sponsor of the bill that created the fund that they ripped off, these are her neighbors. These are the people she represents. And by the way, the people that she was in communication with. You know that Amy Bock, the head of the Feeding Our Future scandal, was sentenced to 41 years yesterday. She has said that Ilhan Omar was aware. Right. And then you look at Keith Ellison. This guy was literally working with Somali fraudsters to frustrate investigations in return for campaign donation. It's been shown, Charlie. And Tim Walz, you can't tell us that he did not know what was going on right under his nose for 7.5 years. I'll tell you what my constituents are asking every day, Charlie. When are these people going to be held accountable? Yep. When is somebody going to go to jail for ripping everybody off?
And I know that you'll stay on top of it.
Well, Amy Bock already is, so there you go. There's one individual, and she got massive time. For 41 and a half years. She's not getting out until she's 80 years old. At least 80 years old. So her life is basically over, right? Because what's the average life expectancy for women right now? I believe it's 79. Average life expectancy of women. Oh, I guess it's 81. 81. Wow, ladies. Okay. I'm kind of jealous. Let's see, United States. Yeah, 81.4. 81.4. That is incredible. Incredible. Wow, kind of jealous. Because I believe the average age for men is like 70-something, like 76 or something. Quote me, don't quote me if I'm wrong on that. But, yeah, I'm kind of jealous, ladies. What y'all doing? Y'all found the fountain? The secret fountain of youth, huh? Let me know. Hey, I won't tell the other fellas, but you gotta let your brother in on it, okay? All seriousness, I think Ilhan Omar is going down next, and then Keith Ellison, and then maybe, just maybe, we will get an old Timmy Waltz being shackled and chained and sent to prison as well. Now, that one is going to be a little far-fetched, right? Because you got to get through all of these other individuals that were a lot closer to the situation than Tim Walz was, obviously. That Tim Walz might be a stretch, but you heard that from Tom Emmer on Ilhan Omar. And then you also heard what he said about Keith Ellison as well. And you heard what Amy Bock said about Keith Ellison. So it's exactly what I've been saying. They all knew about this. They all knew, okay? And there was a clip a while back. I don't know if you guys remember this, but when Nick Shirley exposed all of this, there was somebody, I can't remember what her occupation was. It was a black lady, but she came out and basically said that the Leering Center, for example, was closed. Like, she said that it was closed, but she was trying to cover for the Leering Center because, of course, like I said, they're all in cahoots. They're all covering for each other. But she jumped the gun and said that they were closed, but when Nick Shirley went back a week later or a few days later and talked to the so-called owner, he said that they were never closed. You see what I'm saying? So, like, they hadn't even gotten their story straight before they started saying certain stuff. And so that, that obviously raised some antennas. Like, why'd you say they were closed when the owner said that they were never closed? So clearly you are trying to cover for him and y'all didn't get y'all story straight, So yeah, whole lot of covering up going on. So will we get old Timmy? In all honesty, probably not. But will we get Ilhan and Keith Ellison? I think there's a serious shot. at it. But y'all get in the comments. Let me know your thoughts and your opinions. Stay safe out there. Peace and love. I'm out.